Okay, here we go. Alright, so hello. You may remember me from my last video where I went over the theories about Clark County in the 2024 election. Well, I have new information that I'm here to present and follow up on that video. And the first thing we want to... So, ETA has provided me with some of their information that broke down early voting data in Clark County by polling place. And the first thing that I want to say is I was wrong. My main point from the last video that short-term polling places probably had more votes per machine, that is wrong. It is not supported by ETA's data. However, looking at ETA's data, it's also abundantly clear that their vote flipping hack after a threshold theory is also untrue. So let's get into it. So in ETA's own words, the data analyst who provided me with the data said, "How do you explain not one long-term voting machine with more than 60% vote share for Harris? Just one will make our argument invalid, but they continue to not exist. There's 23 of them." So just remember, but he said, remember before you pile on to me if you're an ETA supporter, that by their own words, their conclusions about Clark County aren't true. There are a bunch of long-term polling places in Clark County that had 60% of the vote share for Harris. I don't know why he said that when, again, his own data refutes him. He could have misspoken, but it has been about over a week since I posted that video, and he has not replied to me when I pointed this out. So, yeah, by their own words, their Clark County theory doesn't hold up. But let's get into it more. Let's actually explain why. So this is a graph you should be familiar with if you've been following ETA's claims. It is their whatchamacallit. On the bottom is votes per machine, and on the axis is percent Trump. And as you can see, here's what they looked like. Now what they're claiming is that at 250 votes, there was some kind of hack, and a visible shift is observed in the voting data where suddenly more people start liking Donald Trump. So a question I am posing to you, the viewer, who is watching this, is of your own opinion, what would that look like? Take a second, screenshot this, put it into Microsoft Paint or your phone's drawing app, and I want you to draw what that would look like if there was a vote flipping hack that made it so that there were more votes for Donald Trump once you get past 250 on the level of an individual polling place. Take a couple seconds and then get back. Okay, welcome back. So, what did you draw here? See, I would have drawn something like this. We start at 250, we're staying around 250, yada yada yada. Then we get to 250, and we're just going to jump straight up to 60, and then we just keep going. There's a little variation, whatever, till the end. That's one way that's a pattern that if I saw, I would say that polling place was hacked, and it is definitely hacked. The other pattern that you could maybe see was maybe if they were a little bit more sneaky with it. And they get to 250, and then when they get to 250, it starts suddenly going up and asymptoting at around some random value for Donald Trump. I'm doing 75, so there's a line. And yeah, it just goes, it gets to 250, and then it goes up. And you'll notice that in both cases, you'll see something funky happening around 250. So now, I'm going to go through, and I'm going to show you every single polling place, every single early polling place in Clark County, and just the tabulators just at that polling place and how they look. And I want you to keep in mind, whatever drawing you did, keep that in mind and look at each polling place and say, does my drawing match what is shown at the polling place, or does it not? It's very important to keep yourself accountable. That's what I did, and I just want you to go through that and see what conclusions you reach. So, without further ado, here's the polling places. Silver Springs Recreation Center, Mountain Crest Community Center, Cambridge Recreation Center, North Las Vegas City Hall. Mobile Team 13. Las Vegas City Hall. Henderson City Hall. Mobile Team 12. Mobile Team 11. West Flamingo Senior Center. Veterans Memorial Community Center. Walnut Recreation Center. Silverado Ranch Community Center. Meadows Mall. Galleria at Sunset. Mobile Team 10. Thunderbird Family Sports Complex. Mobile Team 9. Nellis Crossing Shopping Center. Mobile Team 8. Mountains Edge Regional Park. Mobile Team 7. Las Vegas Athletic Club Rainbow. Mobile Team 6. Las Vegas Athletic Club Decanter. Mobile Team 5. Deer Springs Town Center. Mobile Team 4. Craig Ranch Regional Park. Mobile Team 3. Blue Diamond Crossing Center. Mobile Team 2. Araro... That's definitely not how that's pronounced. I am so sorry. Ario Market Square. And finally, Mobile Team 1. Now, of these, how many actually matched what you drew before looking at them? Very little, right? Like, if we go back through, you know, it's like this one, there's one under 250, but it's above all the ones for Donald Trump. So again, one for Donald Trump, it's above. This one, there's a couple for Donald Trump, or a couple below 250, and they are below. There's also these two outliers out here, that's fun. Yeah, this one, again, there's not like a huge change in pattern. These are all about the same as the ones after it. Same here. Here, yeah, there's a bunch right around 250. And you can see there's no real change between left and right here. Same with here. There's a little bit upwards variation after Donald Trump, after he hit 250, but not a huge amount. There's one, I don't know, sorry, that was my pointer. It looks exactly like those dots. But yeah. Yeah, and you can see in every one where there's the machines with less than 250, they're not showing a major difference between them and the ones above 250. There are some exceptions, mostly in the mobile teams, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, because if a mobile team tabulator goes down, that means it's going to get a different population of voters in there if it goes down for, say, a whole day and misses a day at a polling place. Not as true at the other ones. But yeah, it's not showing that kink at 250 that you would expect to see if ETA's theory was true. And I think the one that shows it best is this one, Mountains Edge Regional Park. Look, it's a downward slope. The ones with more than 250 have less votes for Trump. But, like, only barely. Like, it's not enough where I'd even say there's a pattern, like, a pattern here. It's probably just random. So what does this mean? Because if there was an election hack, if there was an election hack, you would expect to see tons of tabulators. If there was an election hack the way ETA described, you would expect to see tons of tabulators that would get to 250 and then jump up. But that's not what we see. We just see each polling place maintains roughly the same level of voters, like roughly the same average for the polling, for the percent per tabulator across the board. In addition, if you look at the trend lines on those graphs I show you, 18 were up and 17 were down. That's 50-50. If there was some kind of hack that was increasing the votes after a threshold, that would generate an upwards trend line. And we're not seeing that. We're not seeing a preference for upwards trend lines. We're seeing a preference for random trend line, we're seeing a 50-50 split, which indicates that the trend lines are just random. They're actual coin flips. So a pretty bit easy explanation for this is something called Simpson's paradox. This is the graphic from Wikipedia explaining it. But it's a well-known statistical phenomenon where you can have subclasses of a group showing one trend, but then the whole group shows a different trend. I think that's what's going on here. They just saw the whole trend, saw it go up, assumed that that was an error, but in reality, it's just that they're just a bunch of straight trend lines put on top of each other. That's not signs of manipulation. That's just something that can happen. And then just for follow-up question, should it be completely random like election day? I really don't think so. For one, there's less polling places in election day. For one, there's less polling places, and there's less tabulators, making it easier for the graph to appear to shift. And the hours in them have way more variance. Like Las Vegas City Hall, that was open 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday. The gallery at Sunset, its hours varied every day, but it was generally something like 10 to 7, but it was open every single day. That's going to affect people's choices when going to vote. But on election day, these two places have the exact same hours, so that variable isn't there. In addition, you don't have the mobile polling places on election day, and so that's going to make the data be more random looking on election day than it is during early voting. So to go back to their graphic at the beginning with the pineapple on pizza example, they say that there's no reason why people would suddenly start preferring pineapple on pizza. But the question I propose to you is, if you had 35 people collecting information about pineapple pizza, and each one had different hours, and each one was set up on a different part of town, and half of the people were staying in the same place while collecting data the whole time, while others were roaming around town, would you all expect them to have the same percentage of people saying they liked pineapple on pizza? Of course you wouldn't. They're doing different they have different methods of collecting the data, so they're going to get different percentages. That's what happened in early voting. On election day, their data collecting was much more uniform, and there were notably more of them, so it looked a lot more normal. Of course, I don't have access to the election day ones, and I would very much like to see the election day tabulator percentages, because then I could confirm if it's just the same thing on election day, but they just overlooked it. So yeah, that's something I would very much like to see. And couldn't a whole polling place be hacked? I mean, yeah, but that's not what they're claiming, and you wouldn't be able to determine that based off the graphs shown. Like, you'd have to do a real deep dive into who voted where to actually get at that information, and I don't think that ETA has done that analysis, and I haven't done that analysis either. So in conclusion, ETA's own data is suggesting that no vote flipping hack occurred. Their initial conclusion appears to be just the result of ignoring Simpson's paradox. Since this was the main thing they were relying on Clark County, it seems unlikely that Clark County was hacked. Since this is the main piece of evidence they were relying on Clark County, it seems unlikely that Clark County was hacked with the evidence we have right now. Someone could go and maybe find something else, but right now, I really don't think we have a lot of evidence saying that Clark County actually was manipulated. So here's a fun little end segment that I'm going to call Letters to the Editor. This is just Reddit comments from my last video, and I just want to go and respond to some of them, just because, yeah, you know what, for funsies. So I Own That says, looks like the propaganda machine has taken notice. Thank you. That's interesting. I wish I was part of the propaganda machine and paid to make these videos, but I'm just doing these because I kind of get annoyed at the election theory videos that don't have a lot of good evidence in them. So I'm just putting my own thing. It's important to know if there's other sides to this than your own side. A deleted user said, the ETA's whole premise is that the data is suspicious enough to follow up with further investigation via hand recounts and audits. They never claim to have proof of anything. The data looks weird. We should check it out. What I find interesting about this comment, and you get comments like this when you try and push back on ETA, is I'm doing the follow-up with further investigation. Why are people not liking it when I do it? It's because they don't like it when the follow-up doesn't confirm the initial claim. If you really do think that the election was hacked, you want someone like me to come in who doesn't think your evidence is strong and go through it, because either I'm going to be able to poke holes in it, or I'm not going to be able to poke holes in it. And if I can't poke holes in it, then if I can poke holes in it, you can refine it. If I can't poke holes in it, it's pretty strong. So yeah, it's just a weird one. And this is my favorite video from the whole time. So there's two parts to it. Have you addressed your thoughts directly to ETA? If your claims have any merit, they can edit or clarify the Substack. Quite frankly, your video is unprofessional and full of shit. So first off, I am recording this as a voiceover of a Google Slides slideshow. Who thinks I'm trying to be professional there? didn't even put this on a PowerPoint. It's a Google Slides. Of course it's unprofessional. But my favorite part about this is he just says, I'm full of shit. And he doesn't elaborate why, because he doesn't know why. That's how they operate on this subreddit. They see someone disagree with what they want, and instead what they want to think is true. And rather than actually trying and, like, going against them, they just say, you're full of shit, fuck you, get the fuck out of here. And it's annoying. It's annoying. But as for the first part, I did actually email ETA a lot of my criticism of them before that first video. And for his second part about editing and clarifying the Substack, I'm just going to explain why I find that frustrating. Because, believe it or not, they actually did edit and clarify their Substack in response to me multiple times before that video. The problem is that they often edit it to a state where it still has errors, and including on the ones of my correction. So here's the first one. So I emailed them with the Vincent Mandela case. This is the one that really set me off. This is the one that really set me down the path because, as I said, every single source you can find on the Vincent Mandela case completely refutes the version that they put forward in their Substack. Now, when I put this forward, all they did to edit their post, as far as I can see, is they changed the wording here to make it less clunky. When an election judge in Washington Township, part of Fayette County, requested a hand recount in his town, and it was changed to when Judge of Elections Vincent Mandela requested a hand recount in the Washington Township precinct, Fayette County. It's just a very slight wording change, and then they just removed this paragraph here. But the problem is that the current version still has tons of errors, all of which were in my email that I pointed out to them. And I got no response as to why they only found this part bad enough to take out. Vincent Mandela is not on the board of he's not on the board of elections. He did not request a hand recount. He just said he was going to do it. The court's formal same-day order does not say that. They don't have returns on November 5th. So why are those still in here? There's no bigger point to be made. The article loses very little if they just took this whole paragraph out, because it's very clear they're wrong about it here. But they didn't do that. And then here's another one. So here's what their original one said. This one, admittedly, only part of this is due to me. Other part they seem to have done independently. But, against the odds, Trump also won every other swing state in the county. Data scientists have estimated that the odds of Trump winning every single swing state, securing less than 50% of the popular vote, is, quote, north of a 35 billion to 1 probability. They changed that to, Trump also won every other swing state in the country. In the days that followed the elections, preliminary estimates bubbled up regarding how unlikely it seemed that one candidate could win all 7 swing states outside of mandatory recount margins, was securing less than 50% of the popular vote. The last time one presidential candidate won 7 swing states was 1984, when Ronald Reagan won 49 out of 50 states with 58.8% of the popular vote. So the change I'm responsible for them making is, this used to say last time one presidential candidate won a clean sweep of the swing states or something like that. Unfortunately, the Internet Archive removed that, so I can't see it, which isn't true. Minnesota was a swing state that year, and Ronald Reagan didn't win it. But what's bugging me is you can't find any source saying that Ronald Reagan won 7 swing states in 1984. The number of swing states changes year by year, and really the modern idea of having swing states that are known in advance is really modern. Like, that's only about 20 years old or so, maybe. So it seems unlikely that there were 7 in 1984, especially you look at their election results. Like, you get to states like the 7th closest state in 1984 was New York, and New York always votes Democrat nowadays, but back then that was big election for Reagan. But the point I'm trying to make here is they changed it, but it's still wrong, which is frustrating. And then there's this whole first part here. What seems wild that they would say that and then not give an estimate if there were more estimates than this north of 35 billion to 1 probability that they know is false. And you can see, even in like their most recent video with Chris Titus, Nathan is speaking, and he's trying to make the point that a data scientist said that there was a 35 billion to 1 probability, but he can't actually use that number because that estimate was wrong. And then they can't find a backup source that actually says anything similar to that because it doesn't exist. The data scientist who looked at the election and tried to predict, like Nate Silver is probably the data scientist who does the most research on election. He had the probability of Trump winning every swing state of about 23%. I get that that's not with 50% of the popular vote or outside a mandatory recount margin, but I seriously doubt that those two factors are going to bring the probability down from 23% to like 0.000000001% or whatever 35 billion to 1 ends up being. That's just not how it works. Alright, here's the next one. I find it interesting that instead of actually refuting the evidence, they always try to delegitimize the source. Like, we can still see the obvious interference in the graph we're showing. Okay, so actually, there's another comment I got that shows that a lot of the graph that I'm showing in the thumbnail looks a lot worse than it is because the ETA people chose a deliberately bad bucket size for their histogram. If you put the buckets at 2% instead of 1%, it doesn't look nearly, or 2% instead of 5%. It doesn't look nearly as bad as they're making it out to be. Again, I really wanted, I should have included some of that guy's stuff, but, you know, he messaged me privately and I don't want to go into it. And as for the first one, again, there are some sources that are wrong enough where I don't think people should trust them without having a backup source to verify them. I think that based off the Substack article, ETA is one of those sources that you have to take with a grain of salt. I've seen them make too many errors for me to trust them implicitly. That's not me saying they're stupid or that they're bad people. That's me saying that the quality of work they put out, that's me saying that the services, that's me saying that the process they're using to put out work right now aren't catching errors. So you need to treat anything they put out with a grain of salt. That's not like a personal attack. That is an attack on the systems they are using to publish data, and seemingly without a way to actually rigorously fact check that data. It's very frustrating, and yeah. So yeah, that's my video. I hope you have a nice day. Talk to you later. See ya.